This is a guide in how to work the beautiful bumper jacket called Davig Greybeard from the Red Book. It's worked in double knitting. It has two faces, the light and the dark one. And this will be a total guide in how to get started working this double knitted bumper jacket. I'll take you all the way from the very first cast on through the tricky first couple of rows and until you are well set off doing the beautiful hand pattern. Let's get started. Using 2 strands of your dark color, you cast on the number of stitches you need for your size of the bumper jacket. Cast on only on 1 needle. Make all your cast-ons and let us meet at the other end of the cast-on row. Once you have finished your cast-on, you might have a too long end, and let us cut that one off. It will just make too much fuss to have these long yarn ends to annoy you in this tricky startup. We'll now need the color A that we have already started using, and then we will also now add the color B. This is row 1. We're now ready to establish our double knitting. Pick up both strands of yarn. Yarn A, the dark one, is held over 2 fingers, yarn B only over 1. The trick is to keep a distance between the two. I use my bone point here to keep them apart. Make also sure you don't have a long way from the finger to the needle and that you're not working too tight to the needle. A bit like this would do well. Now we got these doubled cast on, and we will work a knit one on the first part of that double cast on with our yarn A. And now we will go behind both threads and do a purl one on the second part of the double cast on loop. We will continue like that. We will simply do now we move on to this next stitch. We'll do a knit one on the first part of the double cast on stitch. We will do a purl one on the second part. And look, we have all our doubled cast on ready here. There are, as you might see, 2. I will do a knit one on first part of the stitch and a purl one on the second part. Simply a knit one. I'll do this very slowly for you now. On the first part of the stitch in color A, I'll go behind both threads like this. Make sure to go behind both threads with your working needle and do a purl one on the second part. Now again, do a knit one. Can be tricky to get them apart, and you probably will have the same fuss with your stitches. Do a knit one on only yarn A like this. Make sure only the first loop is slipped. Go behind both threads. I move my yarn to the front. You can do whatever you prefer. I move both threads to the front. It makes it easier to go behind. And then I do a purl one on the second part of the loop. A knit one and a purl one. Oh, I have to go behind both. Keep doing this knit one, purl one all the way to the end of the row. Let's meet when there's only 2 stitches, doubled cast on stitches left on the needle at the end of the row. Now I'm at the end of the first row. I only have 2 more of these double cast on stitches, and I will also do a knit one in yarn A and go behind both and do a purl one in yarn B. Also, I'll do that on the very last one. knit 1. Oh, I didn't get that right. Knit 1. It does seem a bit tricky. That was better. And do the purl 1. Now all our stitches has been turned into pairs of double stitches. We always reckon double knitting stitches in pairs of double stitches. Like this. This is one double stitch, and this is one more double stitch. It is a bit tricky that they tend to pair up with their neighbors, but you really always have to see this is one knit 1 from the front side and one purl 1 from the back side. Now let's turn around and do row 2. Now let's turn around and do row number 2. Now we will have the light yarn, the yarn B, over both fingers and yarn A over only one finger. And the light yarn has moved to the right on our fingers and the dark yarn to the left. Always the yarn that is in the front is on the right side of our finger. Now we do a knit 1 with color B and a go behind both yarns and do a purl 1 in color A, and knit 1 in B, a purl 1 in A. So whenever we've done one knit 1, we always go behind both and do a purl 1. This is a double stitch. Yeah, let's just continue to the end of this row. There's no tricks here, just do a knit 1 and a purl 1. Keep working like this until you have only one pair of double stitches left. Let's meet at the end. Now I am nearly at the end. I only have one double stitch left to work, and now there's only one left here. That's where I'm asking you to have a very close look now. We're now going to perform the double edge stitch in double knitting. It is tricky, but it will be ever so beautiful. You pick up the yarn before last stitch, this loop. You take your color B, the front yarn, in front of the work and slip the loop and the stitch, and leave color B yarn hanging in the front. Now we will do exactly the same with color A. We'll pick up the loop before last stitch, we'll move the yarn to the front, slip the loop and the stitch, and leave the yarn at the front. This is row 3. We'll now have the dark yarn to the right because that will be our front yarn. We have these two, the loop and the stitch from before. We will work them as a knit together through the back of the loop on yarn A only, and slip yarn A at the front. We can just leave it here. Now we will do also a knit together through the back of the loop with our color B. Loop and stitch, knit together through the back of the loop, leave the yarn at the front. This is very important to do this absolutely like this, so just watch this video several times so that you get it totally right. I will show you this at every single end and beginning of a row until you're absolutely sure to get it right. It's important that these edge stitches are done in this way to be able to place the bottom band at the jacket later on. Now we have here a dark stitch, and the dark stitch is worked knit 1 with yarn A, purl 1 with yarn B. Again, you have to remember always to do the knit 1 and then go behind both threads to finish this double stitch with a purl 1 at the stitch from the layer behind. It's as simple as that really. A knit 1, go behind both threads and do a purl 1. And you can see that to me it is the easiest to place both yarns in front of the needle when I do the go behind both threads, but that is really, it depends on your knitting and purl technique. If you prefer to do it with the yarn to stay at the back, if that's what you're used to, you will probably also prefer that in the double knitting. It is a knit 1, go behind, purl 1. Keep working steady like this all the way to the end of the row. And if you have a bit more complication with this, it's probably due to that you have the yarns clinging together, so make sure to keep them apart and make sure they're not twisted like this, because we need them to be untwisted. Yeah, let's meet at the end of this row number 3. I have now reached the end of the row and I will just have to do one more double knitting, double stitch, and now I'm at the end where there are 2 stitches left. It's really one double stitch. So I have now I have to pick up the loop before last stitch. I'll do that like this. I'll pick up the loop with my left hand needle, and now I'll move the color A yarn to the front and slip one loop, one stitch to the right hand needle. Like this. I'll leave yarn A at the front, and I will do exactly the same with the yarn B. I'll pick up the loop before last stitch, slip loop, slip stitch with yarn in front, leave the yarn in front, and again the 2 last stitches here, our last double stitch, has not been worked. The yarn is at the front and we will turn the work. We are now in the beginning of row number 4, and this row is a light side at the front, so I will also have my light yarn at the right and over both fingers. The first thing that meets me now is the 2 stitches here that are really a stitch and a loop. I will do the knit together through the back of the loop if I can catch them. Yeah, like this. I will slip the stitch, now knit together, and I'll leave the yarn in the front, and I'll do exactly the same and knit together. This is really a knit, please note that, and knit together through the back of the loop with my back side yarn, or my yarn A in this row. Also leave that yarn at the front. Now the trick about double edge knitting is to leave this loop very long so that you will have enough yarn to pick up the loop when you come back, reach back to this point in the next row. This is really all that happens. Oh, what's going on here? Well, I'm doing the light side, so I'll need to have my light yarn in the front like this, and knit 1, go behind both threads and do the purl 1, knit 1 and go behind both and do purl. Yeah, this is our row number 4, and we are actually now just repeating row 3 and 4 if nothing else is mentioned, and we will be doing that for some time now, but we will follow one another. We'll go that go down that road together. So let's just keep working this together. We will meet at the end of row number 4 here and do the double edge stitch together. See? Here I've reached the end of row 4. There's only one double stitch and then the edge stitches. Let's work them together. The double stitch in color B in front and color A in back, in the back, and then the double edge stitch where I pick up the loop. I take the yarn in front, only the one yarn, and slip the loop and the stitch and leave the yarn in front. Only yarn B in front, and then I take yarn A and I pick up, that's a bit hard to see in the dark yarn, I pick up the loop and slip the stitch, the loop and the stitch with the yarn in front. We'll turn the work. We've now reached the end of row 4, and from now on we'll knit double edge stitches in the beginning and the end if nothing else is mentioned. So this will give us a very nice finish, and it will leave space to attach the zipper later on. Now I have the double edge stitch in color A. This is my beginning of row number 5. I will do the double edge knit together and leave the yarn in front like this, and the double edge stitch in color B. Where is my 2 loops? Are here, and also leave that yarn in front. My row 5 to 8 will be a repeat of the row 3 and 4, but we will still be doing them together. This is the row number 5, and I will have a knit 1 in color A. I'll go behind both threads and do a purl 1 in B. So this is a knit 1 and a purl 1, a knit 1 and a purl 1. Maybe it's also going a bit more smooth at your place now, as you have had some possibilities to practice. Anyway, we'll meet in the end of row 5. This is the end of row 5. There's only a little double knitting left. And again, we can do together the double edge stitch in double knitting. Sorry for this very clumsy word, but let's get it done. We will pick up the loop before last stitch, and if I can let you see, these are the 2 loops we did a knit together on last time, so we need to go in front of those 2 to not disturb them. We'll pick up this loop, we'll bring the yarn in front, slip loop and slip stitch, leave the yarn in front. Now only with yarn B. Again, here you can see the 2 loops that we want to lay shoulder by shoulder to make this lovely beautiful edge. So we will go in front of them. Actually, I can sort of grab the loop I want to have by going into the stitch like this and grab the loop. Then these 2 will still be shoulder by shoulder. I'll take the yarn to the front, slip the stitch, the loop and the stitch, turn the work, and now we can begin row 6 with a knit together to the back of the loop on yarn B color, Look at this. Now we have a shoulder by shoulder, and I will leave the yarn B in front. Remember everything here, and grab the yarn A and do also here, and knit together through the back of the loop and leave the yarn in front. So now we can work row number 6, where we have a yarn B in front. We'll do a knit 1, purl 1 all the way to the other end, where we can meet again to do the double edge in double knitting together, because it is still a bit tricky. Let's meet in the other end. And now we are at the end of row number 6. If you are in doubt, you can count this knitting. The first row we made was this, the dark one down here is the cast on. So the first row will be the color B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the other part of this double stitch. Once again, we are now at the double edge stitch. Look at these two. They are lying shoulder by shoulder, so we are not to interrupt them. We go on the other side and pick up the loop. It is there. Can be tricky, but it is worthwhile. There it was. Pick up the loop, yarn in front, slip loop, slip stitch, leave yarn in front. Yarn B, the two that are not to be interrupted, the loop just on the other side of that, bit hard to see for you. Now I would like to grab it through the stitch instead. There it is. Look at that. Yarn in front, slip loop, slip stitch, leave the yarn in front. It might seem very tricky with these edge stitches, but I assure you it will eventually be very much easier, and it will be worthwhile, because you get this very nice edge to attach your zipper to. Knit together, loop and stitch, leave the yarn in front, knit together again through the back of the loop, loop and stitch, and leave that yarn in front. We're now working row 7, and we'll have our yarn A in front and to the right of our finger. Knit 1, go behind, purl 1, and now it might be a good time to ensure that the edge stitch is not made too tight. Give it a little yarn to provide material for the loops to be picked up later on. Now a knit 1 and a purl 1 all the way to the end of this row, where we will meet again and work the double edge stitch together. And now this is the end of row 7, the last double stitch and the edge. The two loops that are not to be separated, so we'll pick up the loop in front of them. Move the yarn to the front, slip the loop and the stitch, leave that yarn in front, grab the yarn B and the two loops that are not to be separated, so we will grab the loop in front of them. Now it's a bit easier because I've made sure to do the double edge knitting a bit more loose, and we leave this yarn in front. We'll now begin row number 8. We'll do a knit together through the back of the loop on yarn B, leave this loop a bit long and move the yarn to the front. We will do a knit together through the back of the loop with our yarn A, like this, and also leave that yarn to the front. Oops. So I can now continue my row number 8 with yarn B in front. Help to the right and over as well, my index as long finger. I've got the yarn twisted, that's not nice. I will untangle it. A long loop and off you go. Knit 1, purl 1, as we are now quite familiar with. Yeah, I'm knitting this work. I'm working, what I want to say is I'm a knit designer from Denmark, so you'll have to be a bit patient with my English if it is not always in tune. But now let's work this row number 8. After that, something exciting will happen. So let's just meet again at the end of this row number 8. We have now reached the end of row 8, doing the last double stitch before the edge, and we will do our usual pick up the 2 loops that are not to be disturbed. We pick up the loop in front of them, take the yarn to the front, slip the loop and the stitch, leave the yarn in front, get rid of it like that, and again the 2 loops that are not to be disturbed, we pick up the yarn in front of them, the loop, yarn to the front, slip, loop, slip, stitch and turn. Now I think you can really see now how beautiful this edge gets, because we do these shoulder by shoulder stitch and loop, and also we can see that we will be able to fill in this opening, the elastic band that will be the bottom band of our bumper jacket. Now this is really also the last row in the bottom edge, because now we're going to make a little trick that will allow this elastic band that we will later on fill in here to stay there and not switch up into the cardigan or to glide up into the jacket itself. So let me show you what's going on. Again, we'll do our double edge stitch. We'll do that every row, each and every. Through the back of the loop, we will knit them together. We will leave the yarn in front, and we will do exactly the same with our yarn B. Now the pattern says that we are to do 2 doubled stitches with yarn A. So we will say 1 double edge stitch and 2 double edge stitches. It's very important they're just done just as we usually do, because from now on we will turn the color, we will swap the color so that we will have the double edge stitch with yarn B in front. We will do a 1 double edge stitch with yarn B in front, and now here comes the trick. We'll twist the yarn 1 round like this. Now the yarn is twisted, and we will do another double edge stitch with yarn B in front and another twist the yarn, and again fingers inside. like this and twist the yarn. We have the yarn twist here, you can see it, and we do a knit, one double stitch with yarn B in front. You can see we do the twist of yarn will ensure that we can now have these layers that are otherwise open will now be closed in the top of this bottom hem, so that the elastic band will stay here and not glide up into the bumper jacket itself. Continue in this way all the way until there are 3 double stitches left. So let's meet in the end of this row. Let's work a few more together. The twist the yarn, the double knitting, twist the yarn, double stitch. And one of the lovely things about double knitting is always the enjoying of the beauty of both sides being right sides in a way. Look at this lovely dense knitting, and then on the back side we got this lovely knitting as well, and the lovely edges. And now if you had done the turn and the twist of yarn, you might be afraid that it'll be visible once you knit the next row, but it won't. So don't worry, it can look, you know, a bit different here where you do the twist of yarn, but it will disappear into the double knitting once we knit the next row. So just continue. Now we have reached the point where there is 3 double stitches left on the needle, 3 pairs of stitches. We will now work a double stitch with yarn A in front. Where we have just been doing the yarn B, we now will change and do a double stitch with yarn A in front, as mentioned in the pattern. And now there's no twist, please remember that, because in these stitches we will have to prepare space for the zipper. And now we will again do our double edge stitch. In the end we will pick up the loop, we will slip the yarn into the front and slip the loop and the stitch as well. We will leave yarn A in front, grab yarn B and do the pick up outside the 2 stitches that are not to be interrupted, slip the stitch and the loop first of all, and then the stitch with yarn B in front. We are now in the beginning of row number 10, where we are doing increases. Still, the double edge stitch is always the same. Knit together through the back of the loop with yarn B here, knit together through the back of the loop with yarn A, and leave that to the front. Always making sure to have a long loop here to prepare material for the next double edge stitch. Now we're doing, as mentioned in the pattern, 2 stitches with yarn B in front, 2 double stitches actually with yarn B in front, and then after that we will be working the increases. We're now ready to make 1 double stitch, make a new double stitch. We pick up the yarn in front of next stitch, and we will work a knit 1 through the back of the loop on that stitch. We will pick up the yarn in front of next stitch, and that is in the layer on the wrong side, and we will do a purl, that's loop through the back of the loop. That is, we have to go behind both threads, also here very important, go behind both and purl 1 stitch to the back of the loop. Now we have made a new pair of stitches, so this is make 1 double stitch. Knit 4 double stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, like this. And then we'll make a pick up the loop in front of next stitch. That will be a color A loop. We will work it knit 1 through the back of the loop, tighten up the yarn. We will pick up the loop in front of the next stitch in the layer behind here. We will go behind both threads. We will do a purl 1. I sort of grab it with my thumb. We'll do a purl 1 through the back of the loop. And also here it is very important to tighten up the yarn. Now this is the repeat. Make 1 and knit 4 double stitches, or work 4 double stitches it would be. This was my number 3, this is my number 4, and if I'm not quite sure I can count again. Where did I make a stitch? I made one here. I can see that because there's no stitch underneath. So I've got 1 double stitch, 2, 3 pair of stitches, and my 4th pair of stitches. So I'll work just one more time for you. This is a pick up the loop in front of next stitch, and I can do my knit 1 through the back of the loop. I can go behind. I'll start picking up the loop in front of next stitch and the color B, and then I will do my purl 1 through the back of the loop. Let's just do this one more time together. Tighten up the yarn and knit 1 double stitch, 2 double stitches, 3 double stitches, number 4 double stitch, and again pick up the loop, do a knit 1 through the back of the loop, tighten up the yarn, pick up the loop in front of the next stitch, and do a purl 1. And the purl 1 through the back of the loop is really a bit tricky. I feel it's easy if I sort of turn the work around so that I can grab the loop from behind and then turn my work back again whilst doing the purl 1 through the back of the loop. Let's have a look how this looks. Is it turning into be a nice edge without any unevenness? Yes, it's really great. So now we are creating new stitches, and we'll just continue like this to the end of this row. This is now the end of our increasing row 10, and I have now 3 stitches left on the row, 3 double stitches. So I'll make 1 double stitch as we made the previous. Just grabbing the loop and do my purl 1 through the back of the loop. Now I will switch the yarn so that I'll get possibility of doing 2 double stitches with yarn B in front. And And then again our double edge stitches in double knitting, where we pick up the loop, place the yarn in front and slip, loop and stitch, leave yarn B, here, grab yarn A and do another, pick up the loop, here it is. Can be tricky, and if it is very tricky I can always go in the stitch and grab it like this. Well, I'll take my yarn in front, slip the loop and the stitch and do the turn, ready for row 11. Now we can really see how this is coming with the two colors like this. This is the row where we will place the markers to keep our guidelines and tell us where the side seam is. We'll start with doing our usual double edge stitches. Double edge stitches in double knitting, leaving both yarns in the front. And let's have a look. We are on our side where the yarn B is in front, really, but if you've noticed now, these two stitches out here, they are part of our edge stitch system. They are going to be worked in the opposite color. So first of all, 2 double stitches with yarn A in front, like this. And now the pattern says to work a certain number of stitches, and I'm doing the medium size, so I'm working 48 stitches, double stitches that is. And after 48 double stitches I will place my marker, and as this is our wrong side, we'll name that marker number 2. Later on we will work the back stitches and place another marker, and we'll name that marker number 1. But let's meet again after 48 stitches, double stitches of course. I will already now prepare my markers from my marker stock and do my 48 double stitches. See you in some stitches time. Now this was my 48, and I'll place my marker number 2 on the needle like this and continue for the back stitches. And what do I have in my size? I am to do 100 stitches for the back, double stitches on top of that. So I can just sit down and do a count, lay back here and do 100 stitches, and so can you. Let's meet to place marker 1 in some stitches. And now I have my 100 stitches and can place my marker 1 and work the rest of the stitches on this row. The good thing about markers, instead of us having to write how many stitches you want to do, is once we have placed these markers, we can now from now on write to you in the patterns that you are to work to this marker. You can work all the way to the marker without having to count all the stitches. Back in the olden days, patterns mentioned always a lot of stitches you had to count, but now we can get much easier around that by saying work to marker number 1, work to marker number 2. And I've made this very easy for myself by getting these numbered markers That's a really way to make things easier. But well, let's get you all the way to the end of this row, and then we will start next row together. This is the end of row number 11. I've just got a few more double stitches. This was the end of the double stitches in color B. I'll now swap the yarn and do my 2 double stitches in color A, because this is how the edge is going to be from now on. I'll do my double edge stitch, pick up the loop in the dark color, always hard to see. I'll just pick, slip, loop and stitch, leave the yarn in front, and do the double edge stitch in the layer here behind, slip the loop, the stitch, turn the knitting. We will now continue in double knitting as we have set up now, with always the 2 stitches out here being in an alternate color, and the markers will guide us now where with placing the pattern. From now on we'll follow the diagram of the hands as mentioned in the pattern. This was my double edge stitch coming up here. I'm sure you are all familiar with that now, as we are on a new row 1, because now we start working the patterns for the hands. We will start just with the 2 double stitches in color B in front. Right, they are done here. And now I'll just stick to the pattern and check what's coming next. In my row number 1, it says double edge stitch 1, we did that, and double stitch B, 2 of those, we've done that as well. Now work double A to 10 stitches after marker 1, place marker 3. So I'll now do double knitting all the way to 10 stitches after my marker 1, and there I'll place marker 3. Let's meet there. Now I've reached my new point where I have to place my marker number 3. It is 10 double stitches after my marker 1. I'll just grab a marker with the number 3 and place it on my needle. Now I have to do the hand, and the hand, of course, on the grey side is going to be a white hand. However, my diagram is a diagram A, and I have to start at row number 19. So I have to turn this around in my head. Whenever I see a white stitch here, I have to do a dark one, because I want a white hand, not a dark hand. This is because the pattern is also to be used when we are from the opposite side, but don't worry, just think about that you want a white hand. Concentrate on that part. So here we got 6 white stitches in the diagram. That means I should continue for another 6 stitches with my dark color, because I'm doing an opposite of this one, at least on this side. So I'll do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 stitches, continuing in the background color. We could also think about that, just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. Now I'll swap the color and I'll do the hand. The hand is here, and I have 8 dark stitches and 8 hand stitches, and in my version here the hand is going to be white, so I'll do a white double stitch 8 times. And just to be sure, do not be confused by the fact that there'll now be 2 stitches in the same color lying next to each other. That will always be like this whenever we switch the color. Whenever we have to change to a new color, there will be this incident of 2 stitches lying shoulder by shoulder in the same color. And we now need 8 stitches in hand color, that is white on this side. That's how look. We start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double stitches, 7 double stitches, and 8 double stitches. And I'll just look at my diagram once more. And now I have 8 stitches in background color, and in this case the background color is the dark color. So I'll do 8 double stitches. This is my number 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. My little discipline with the counting 1 and 2 and is to ensure that I don't start counting single stitches but always count pairs of stitches, so that I say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and. Very easily you can start counting 1, 2, 3 of the stitches instead, and this is my little trick not to get into that trap. Now I have to do 2 more colors in the hand, 2 more stitches, double stitches in hand color, so I will change to color B and do 2 double stitches in color B. Now I've finished my row number 19, and I can now look at the pattern again. It says what it tells me to do. I've worked the diagram A starting row 19, and then I work double stitches color A to 32 stitches before end and place marker 4. So I'll continue to 32 stitches before 32 double stitches before the end. Let's meet there. Before the end, I've counted 32 double stitches before end, and I will place a marker with the number 4 on my needle. And now we are to work, let's have a look at diagram A, this time starting at row number 4. And row number 4 says 4 stitches in the background color, and in this case the background is dark. So I'll do 4 double stitches, of course. 1 and 2 and I've got something left over from last time here. I can simply slip it because it will appear into the layers. Oh, disappear, of course. This was 1, 2, number 3 and 4. And so here we now have 4 stitches, double stitches in background color, and my row number 4 says now 4 stitches in the hand color. That is, I'll change yarn and do 1 and 2, just see if I can do it sharp for you. Yeah. And 3 and 4. Well, that's done then. Right. Then it says 3 stitches in background color. Background is dark. 1 and 2 and 3 in background color. And now there'll be 6 stitches in the hand color, which is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. This was number 6 double stitch in hand color. Let's just make sure we have the change of yarn here. We say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double stitches in hand color. And looking at the diagram, I can tell that the rest of the stitches are done in the background color. So I can now continue to the end of the row in the background color, which is my dark color. This was the first row. Now we have placed our markers. We have started our hand pattern according to the diagram A. We've started in 2 different places of the diagram, and that's totally on purpose to make this appearance of casually placed hand patches on the bumper jacket. I hope you will now be guided in where the hand is. We will start the next row together as well, and from there on I hope you'll be able to work on your own for some while. Now I have turned the work and I am ready to start on the second row where there are pattern in our bumper jacket. I'll just do my double edge maneuver and the 2 stitches, double stitches marking the band for the zipper. Right, I'll make sure I've got enough material to do the double edging in the coming row. Now my background is white, or at least light. I don't know which color you've chosen. And I'll now work all the way to where the diagram begins. And the diagram, what I can tell from the diagram is I was at row number 4 last time. I will have to do my row number 5. So I'll simply have to see if there's any development in the pattern and follow it from there on. Remember, now I'm coming from the other side, so where I have to start now is from this point and not from there. I know this is not totally sharp. I hope you can still follow. So I will knit to where my stitches are turning dark, and they will do that here. And there I can see from the pattern that it will be the same amount of dark stitches that I have to put on top of those. So that will be the easy part. In this way, you will follow the pattern until you have worked. Let me see what are the numbers in my size. I'll have to continue following the diagram until work measures 11 centimeters, and that will be measured from bottom. and up. This is the end of the startup workshop or tutorial or video. I hope you have been guided. After this little show, I'll just also show you the work 2 stitches together, knit together in double knitting, and from there on I hope you'll be able to manage your bumper jacket by following this the pattern in the book and these videos. I'll now just shortly show the knit together in double knitting. We will need this once we are to do the raglan, and what we do is we slip 1 stitch to the right hand needle and slip 1 stitch to a helping needle like this, and the 1 stitch I'll just stick into the work, the knitting, so that it will not slide or glide off. I'll now place this first stitch back on the needle again and make ready to do a simple knit 2 together. It could either be through the back of the loop like this, it will often be. It could also be a simple knit together. Let's try to do the knit together through the back of the loop, just on light yarn with light stitches. This was first half part of the knit together double stitch. Now I think you can already guess I have to put back my stitch, my dark stitch, on the left hand needle. I am to go behind both yarns and do a purl together either, or a purl together through the back of the loop. Once again, I would have to make sure that I would get both of the loops. Can be tricky. I'll just hold the yarn so that you can see what's going on here. I'll grab the yarn from the back of the loop and I will do a purl together only with the dark yarn like this. Now I have re-established the routine that there is a dark and a light and a dark and a light color. So I made a knit together in the front side, and if we turn around you will see there's also a knit together 2 stitches in the back side of the bumper jacket. And this is really the routine, that whenever you do something on the one side of your knitting, your double knitting, you will have to do exactly the same on the other side. We cannot get away from the routine of doing everything double. So this was a knit together in double knitting. I hope you'll have fun for the rest of the cardigan. There's also the issue about the wrap and turn, but it is very clearly described, and I think once you get that far you will be able to just take it from there. Now this is our startup guide, and I hope you are well set off now to continue on your own, and please let us see your results, also halfway through or just started, in the Facebook group called Red Knitters Society. That's where people from all over the world share their experiences with the Red Book with us.